G'day, blokes and shills. It's still in this framed thing. Hang on, I got to work these. Ah, there's the button I'm looking for. It's all right, no worries. Got it sorted. So, hello again. Two in a day. Aren't you guys feeling lucky? G'day to Rex there, who I noticed said, "Batty, have a drink for me." There you go, buddy. Sips to you, buddy. Can't stay sober all day. It's un-Australian. But it is a school night, so moderation, people. That's why it's sips and not skulls, eh? So I'm going to kind of make it up as I go along. I don't want to be here all night tonight because it is a school night. You do have to get up and do things. It's an unfortunate side effect of, being a slave. You have to pay the masters all the time. I did notice there's another comment that's coming up here. Jan was saying that this intro is as long as the Stop the Rot one. I haven't actually seen the Stop the Rot intro, but the purpose of having it long is so that some people have at least a bit of time to get in there. You see what the fuck boys do, and they can leave it for half an hour before they even play the intro, just having a yarn waiting for people to come in, which is a very unique and interesting approach. I actually contemplated making that intro longer, is to give people more time to sort of enter the room and get started and whatnot. But it's good to see you, dedicated mob. You flock in here really quickly. You know what time things are starting. You just on the ball. I love it. Such an amazing community here. G'day, Robin. How you going? And especially Robin's doing a great job behind the scenes here, making sure that all this keeps flowing and the entertainment and the production is still happening for all you amazing fans out there. She's doing a great job back there. So thanks to Robin for all the great work that she's doing, making sure we can keep doing this stuff. Not everybody is independent when it comes to running these things. So it's good to see that we can all chip in and help each other out where necessary. And hence, here I am filling in for where Michael would normally be this evening with a news flash, I guess. Not really a news flash, but my news wrap sort of thing, which replaced the fail of the year because I just can't bear to take that off. The board, Channel 10 and Townsville Bulletin became conspiracy theorists in a desperate attempt to attack our mayor. How can I ever let them live that down? That is the stupidest and most pathetic excuse for reporting in all of Queensland I've ever seen. And they need to have their noses rubbed in it all the time. I feel I feel it's my duty in life. Eminem thought his mission in life was just to piss the world off in general. I feel my duty in life is to piss off these people, for being absolute retards and left biased scumbags. But anyway, that's enough of my rant for the day. So this one, I think we might see if we can get a little bit of user feedback from time to time here. So there was actually something I wanted to bring up earlier, but we had a few technical issues this morning. And as you can see, I've got my camera up and functioning. What had happened? The battery had completely drained. It decided to turn itself on. And it's one of the side effects of using the GoPro, I've noticed, is that it does have a mild drain on the battery, even though it's plugged into a USB port. So obviously the mechanics require more power than the USB can actually provide. So if it's turned on, it drains the battery eventually. So I didn't realize that it had turned itself on Saturday. So when I come in Sunday, I find my computer's doing weird shit. The battery's completely friggin' drained. I'd normally have a little bit more time. We started earlier. It was a big shit show this morning, but we got through it. I think we did a great job, particularly with the temporal delay. It was like living in a strange sort of echo chamber, but we managed to make it work, and I'm pretty happy about that. So one of the things I did want to bring in, though, and I'll just bring it in, is something that my son discovered. So he and his friends were doing a little bit of political research. Very, very good of them. And I have to admit, my son is a bit of a nerd. They went on a holiday to Melbourne, and what did they do? They went to science works and museums and shit like that. I certainly wouldn't have done that in my heyday, but hey, look, that's them. They're good. At least I know they're not getting into trouble, and they're hopefully stretching their minds as far as humanly possible. But yeah, they were looking up politicians, because what else did you do in school but look up politicians? It's not what I did when I found the internet, I can tell you that. But anyway, that aside, let's bring in this image from this morning of what they discovered, because it's a bit of a shock, and I actually meant to bring it up because it surprisingly is about One Nation, and you'll never believe it. And anybody else out there with kids in schools right now, go tell them first thing Monday morning, as soon as you get near a computer, Google the political parties and see if you can access their web pages from the school computers, because it turns out you can access all the pages of various political parties, except which one? Come on, anybody care to venture a guess? I mean, I kind of hinted at it. I was very subtle, I'm sure. But I'm like, man, get a screenshot. He went back to school the next day, got me a screenshot, and this is what we have. So I'm going to add it to the stage. Can't reach the page. www.onenation.org.au. Cannot be reached from a school computer, but the other political parties, they're okay. Isn't that fascinating? I think we might have to have a yarn to our principal at this school, at the William Ross State High. Congratulations for being a pack of, socialists, I guess. You want to restrict certain political parties. That is a very socialist thing to do. Perhaps they need a swastika on front of that school. I'm not suggesting we should go and put one there. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is I am reminded of the kind of attitudes that the Nazi Germany's apparently did. This looks a lot like what they describe in those books. And I have to wonder, being a school, did they ever look at that stuff themselves? It's very disturbing to find that, One Nation's page has been blocked. So congratulations to William Ross State High School for being a pack of tyrants. So yeah, we'll be having words, I reckon. We'll be having some words. That is not on, it's supposed to be about knowledge and opening up people to experiences, not deciding what they can and can't see. Especially since these children will be voting age. If so, some of them are probably already becoming voting age in their year 12 thing. They're getting active, they want to learn things, and you are blocking them. That is disgraceful. I'm not surprised though. I'm really not. So anyway, let's move along to some of the other things I've found recently. This one in particular sort of caught my fancy. Good old ABC typically telling everybody how it is. U.S. Independence Day polls show Australia's radical shift over Trump economy. Yeah, we're all going in favor, but that's not what they're trying to say. In short, they're saying a clear majority of voters in a new Q&A YouGov poll says the U.S. is no longer a reliable military ally. Really? Who the fuck did they ask? A clear majority, they reckon. More than 7 in 10 Australians believe Donald Trump will make them worse off financially. So this could be a manipulation of things. Is it Donald Trump, or is it the fact that we're confident our government is so useless that they won't play ball with Donald Trump? It's truth. You got to wonder, could things get any worse with the damage that the Labor Party's done? I mean, I suppose if they get another term, yeah, probably could. But I'm more worried about the Labor Party and the Greens and scumbags like this at the ABC than I am Donald Trump. I can tell you that much. 2/3 of Australians say the United States can't be trusted as a security ally and want to develop more independent defense capacity. Well, I think we should have an independent defense capacity. I mean, why is America solely dependent? Why should we be dependent on America? We should have our own weapons pointed squarely at our enemies, especially when they're running their military boats down the friggin' East Coast. I think that did a whole lap of the country in the end, just to demonstrate how useless our politicians were, I guess. Something we should all be considering, as you roll into the poll booths next week. Exclusive research commissioned by the ABC. That one's got to be fucking trustworthy, eh? Q&A program reveals the country has serious concerns with Trump and his impact. So what the 5 people that actually take ABC seriously took your poll didn't like it. What a surprise. This is the funny thing is when we get into this and, they're looking at these are their stats, no, we must develop more independently. Yes, one president substantially affects relations. So, and again, it's interesting the questions they've asked and how they've gotten these results, but what's really fascinating is why I discovered this was from good old Twitter. And of course, I put in there, my 2 bobs because I just had to. I trust Trump over the ABC any day, and pointing to the lab leak origins, the true story of COVID coming from Trump, where we know the ABC absolutely lied to us. But you look at the comments here. Note most Australians are pissed at elbows, cringing onto crap like mass immigration of Crims and non-English speakers. It's not me. This is a fellow by the name of Bones. Mike here says you cannot speak for most Australians. Clearly the room is saying something very different to ABC and their poll. Angry auntie. This is 100% rubbish. Political activists masquerading as ABC journalists want us to cozy up with China. Yeah. Most ABC viewers, but they aren't normal, says Gary. Most Australians support the defunding of the ABC. You can see the comments really do say something completely different to what the ABC is trying to sell us, which is really fascinating, I think. Very, very, very fascinating stuff. People are very pissed off at the ABC with wonderful posts like this, state-run media, socialist-run media, that's the thing. I'm not opposed to the idea of the state running and owning things. I think the ABC should be a state-funded thing, but when it's clearly being as horrifically left biased as it is, that's not what we're paying for. It should be. Media is supposed to be non-biased. The fact that it is completely biased has opened up for people like me to come in and go, well, since you're not telling the rest of the story, I guess we better fill up the other side. Otherwise, it's a very one-sided argument. They're full-on communist leftist bullshit, or me giving a straightforward Australian representation, which is not being had anywhere else, except in the comments section on Twitter. But that, of course, leads us to the lab leak. Isn't it good that Trump has finally come out and openly stated that, the truth, the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2, a publication which was used repeatedly by public health officials and the media, particularly the ABC, to discredit the lab leak theory, was prompted by Dr. Fauci to push the preferred narrative that COVID-19 originated naturally, which we all know now is a lie. The virus posed discloses a biological characteristic that is not found in nature. Data shows that all COVID-19 cases stem from a single introduction into humans. This runs contrary to the previous pandemics where there were multiple spillover events. Wuhan is home to China's foremost SARS research lab, which has a history of conducting gain-of-function research, gene altering, and organism supercharging and at inadequate biosafety levels. Wuhan Institute of Virology researchers were sick with COVID-like symptoms in the fall of 2019, months before COVID-19 was discovered at a wet market. By nearly all measures of science, if there was evidence of a natural origin, it would have already surfaced, but it hasn't. So it's all there for anybody who wants to have a look on the White House government page. I'll drop it here in the comments for you if you want to go a little bit further and read up on it, because you should. Don't just trust me at the quick face value as I skim through these things quickly and throw my two bobs in. Go and get your information and throw your own two bobs in there. Whether Bob's your uncle or Bub's your auntie, I'm sure you can figure it all out for yourself one way or the other. Personally, Bob's my neighbor, but that's a different fucking story. And he's very, very well in charge of the fact that he knows what his gender is. Very, very intelligent bloke, good old Bob. But anyway, some more fun for good old Dictator Dan. We gave him a big, good kick in the dick earlier today. Why not do it again? Bombshell document on Victoria's controversial COVID curfew has been released. Isn't that good? I know it's a week old. You probably already read it, but I haven't spoken about it yet, so it's relevant today. A bombshell document shows Victoria's Public Health Commander was not consulted before Dan Andrews' crisis cabinet announced a curfew on Melbourne almost 5 years ago. The email obtained exclusively by News Corp has already prompted anger and even a partial concession within both the Labor government and the state's current health minister. In August 2nd, 2020, the crippled region of metropolitan Melbourne was imposed with the unthinkable prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, a curfew limiting movement at night and also forcing thousands to stay within 5 kilometers of their home. All bullshit, all conjured up by Dictator Dan with no actual health advice. He probably got that information from Fauci, who openly stated as well, well, we just made it all up. There was no real science behind it. We just thought it'd be a good idea. Why not give it a crack? Hey, we got to do something. Bloody idiots. Sips to these. We're finally coming out. We've got to all be feeling good about this. But of course, some people are going, well, Dan Andrews' criminal prosecution begins. Of course, it's coming from good old Monica Smith, who feels it is time to take her to truth, to take him to task and get the truth out of this prick. And that piece of shit that is currently running Victoria into the dirt, the protege of Dictator Dan. It looks like a female carbon copy, really, doesn't it? Anyway, no one, I wonder if they gene spliced lunatics and, they just churn them out into the fucking Labor Party. Is that how they do it? I don't know. I mean, they're all, they all think the same. They're like a hive. Maybe they're all genetically engineered. Just a joke. I don't actually believe that. It's way too much of a crazy conspiracy theory. But they're definitely brainwashed. That's for sure. No one has launched a private prosecution against these criminals. The police won't do it, so we will, she says. We now have evidence that Dan Andrews, the then Premier of Victoria, and Jacinta Allen, current Premier, ignored official health advice when enforcing curfews that impacted millions of Victorians. We endured some of the harshest lockdowns in the world, but why? We deserve the truth. This legal case is being spearheaded by Reignite Democracy Australia on behalf of its members. I've proven I have the resilience and experience to lead this fight. She's obviously asking for a few bucks. I'm not saying you should or you shouldn't. That's up to you. But hey, I think it's time. We might have to hit Monica up and suss that out a little bit more, see what she's got planned and how I'm going to go about it. I think it's a wonderful idea. And you get him nailed to the wall good and proper. Hopefully everybody else will come down. And of course, it's all happening for good old Dictator Dan. We did discuss it earlier this morning, but the legal victory for the cyclist that he and his missus ran over some 15 years ago, was it 20? Yeah, hang on. No, what's the date? Yeah, we're looking about 12 years. He's been paid out, which is basically an admission. Obviously, he didn't want it to go to court, but I think it's absolutely disgusting that he's tortured this poor kid for so friggin' long to avoid. Look at this goofy fuck. You go fall down some stairs. What a horrible piece of shit. This is an absolute one of the worst human beings on the planet right now. I mean, Zelensky's pretty bad, but this guy's right up there. I think he's another one who should be parachuted into the nearest war zone with a Bowie knife and going, "You go fight this war, mate. It's people like you who caused it." So anyway, I won't rip into that one too much. We've already discussed it earlier today. Of course, fed up Aussies booed the Anzacs. We had a bit of a yarn about that earlier today, but it's worth noting that Pauline Hanson ripped into them pretty good. She made a very valid point here that although it's unacceptable behavior to carry on like that, at an Anzac Day parade, although, we had stolen cars running through our Anzac parade. Well done. The Liberal Party seemed to be doing a great bang up job fixing Labor's crime syndicate. But, what can you expect, eh? We've let these people run amok for so bloody long. I even heard tell that apparently there was stolen cars being running around on their rims, like as if Queensland roads aren't bad enough. We need these dickheads ripping up the road even further. Wonderful state of affairs here in Townsville. But anyway, that aside, the mainstream media aren't looking at these sorts of things. No, they're too busy calling pissed off Aussies racists or neo-Nazis, because they want to have a say about something they find is disrespectful. Even, the military found it very disrespectful. And as I stated earlier, I had a half Indigenous, half white Australian lady actually stopped me to tell me all about it at the supermarket yesterday, and boy was she fuming. This whole welcome to country stuff's got to end. It's no good. It's not helping, especially for the Anzacs. They fought and died for this country. She had it all to say. I guess I happened to be there at the right time for that lady to vent her personal frustrations. It was a wonderful conversation we had. I won't say too much more about it. I don't want to identify it too much, but it was lovely, and I hope you're watching. G'day. It was wonderful talking to you. But what's really important here is protesters were shouting "Free Palestine" at Anzac Day services, and that barely got a mention. Isn't that fascinating? Again, left bias, one-sided media. We want to attack Australians who have had enough of this ridiculous leftist pandering, but it's okay to scream "Free Palestine" to our soldiers. They're not here to fight for Palestine. Our soldiers are here to fight for our country, our values, our land. They're here to defend. It's the Australian Defence Force, not the Australian go pick a fight with anybody force. Come on, think about this. I don't understand why it's so hard for these left-hearted fuckwits to get it. Absolute morons. I mean, Pauline did have something to say about it. I could probably
same thing happened.
Get a copy of that going, and we'll have a bit of a listen. Why not? Sorry, a little bit all over the place today. It's never enough time. I was supposed to tune a drum kit at some stage too. I never got around to doing that either. Selfish idea of going. You know what? I just want to play a video game for a little bit. I need to zone out. I'm not having a good time. But anyway, it's the things you got to do to save the world, I guess. Can't sit down and play video games all day and expect the world to bloody solve itself. But it would be nice to just sort of kick back once in a while and just forget for a little bit. Just for a little bit. So I did that. I was a bit selfish. So as a result, you got to listen to me talk about how selfish I was. Here it is, the video.
It's reported there was a protest rally today at the Anzac Day commemoration in Melbourne against Welcome to Country. Well, the same thing happened in Kings Park, Perth, the one that I attended. I'm not for protests, and especially on a special day as Anzac Day. But people in this country have had a gutful of it. They voted against the Voice in 2023, and now we feel as if we've been shoved down the throat. This is a special day to commemorate those veterans, those men and women and their families for the sacrifices they have given, their lives that they've given for our country. Why do we have to acknowledge a group of people over what land they own? Isn't Australia belong to all Australians, whether you're born here or came from another country, to migrate here for what this country has to offer? It's not a place for it. But let's have the debate over this, because I don't want to see these protests happen next year on Anzac Day. Debate the issue. Let the people have their say. And I'll also say, I don't know who these people are that protested, but why label them neo-Nazis? Maybe these could be even veterans that have fought and represented Australians. But the whole fact is, they may not be happy about it because over 54% of this land is under native title. So you tell me, why should men and women sign up for our armed services and possibly put their lives on the line for what? Stop the division in this nation. We're all Australians. But also say to these people out there, I understand your hurt and pain, but don't go making a protest on such a commemorative day. It's a day that we must respect those men and women families who have sacrificed their lives for what we have. That's our freedom and our democracy.
Authorised by Pauline Hanson, One Nation, Brisbane.
What? There we go. Sorry. New set of buttons here. Long story short, I got to figure a few things out here. All good. So I did have another video I found the other day, but I'm struggling to figure out where I put it. I thought I had it all a little bit more organized than this. I figured it'd be in one of these last couple of folders, but it doesn't seem to be here. There's always a possibility it didn't download in the right format, and that's why. Oh no, here it is. So, as Pauline rightly pointed out, perhaps some of these people are actually veterans themselves. So let's have a listen to another video I found regarding this issue.
All these people, the reason why we're here is because our friends fought and died for this country. Blood, sweat and tears, life, 100%. Like their ancestors did. Whether this is the time and place for it, I don't know. So I believe people are entitled to their opinions.
Of course people are entitled to their opinions.
Whether it's the time and place.
That's exactly what I came to ask you.
The same as the welcome to the country. Is it the right time and place today for it? As a veteran, I don't think it is. Now, I have a lot of veteran mates that haven't come today solely because of the welcome to the country. Because our friends have died for this country, for this soil, and for them to be welcomed is a slap in the face. And you need to see it from a different perspective.
No, I'm not disagreeing with. I'm not saying that there aren't people that feel that way. What I'm saying to you is to get up there and boo in the middle of what is a sacred ceremony is going to be seen by a lot of people as disrespectful.
Yes, but that's where we, as Australians, and you as the media, need to tell the right story. Like, yes, it was disrespectful, but these are the reasons why people are not agreeing with it. Because it's not the right time or place for it.
But not the right time and place for what?
For both. For the welcome to the country and for the buoy. Both are not the right time or place.
So what you're saying is everything's wrong here. You're not happy with anything.
I agree with the whole service, but the welcome to the country and the buoy. It's, as I said to you, it's not right to welcome veterans. World War II, just listen about all the people that have died in this country. For them to welcome us in this country is disrespectful.
Well, thank you for talking to me. My name's Mark.
I'm happy to talk.
I think old mate summed that up pretty well. They fought and died for the land, and then you want to welcome them to it. Bit rude, you know. Personally, I think the same of socialists, really. People fought and died in wars against socialism and communism, yet Labor, and there's even a Socialists Alliance, but we'll get to that a bit later, you know. How the fuck can you walk the streets of Australia promoting socialism? What is wrong with you? Seriously. You know, the Labor Party, they're a socialist party. The Greens are a socialist party. There's parties out there that actually openly state they're socialists. How is that allowed in this country? I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be free. And I guess it's one of the problems with freedom and actual freedom of speech is that absolute fuckwits are allowed to speak. You know, but hey, you wouldn't realize what stupidity was unless they actually got the ability to brute their friggin' socialist garbage. Absolute lunatics. Personally, I think that's disrespectful, you know. But anyway, let's move along, shall we? So let's clear this stage a bit. Things are a bit messy here. And So obviously the resulting factor was that it was pulled down at the NRL, potentially fearing that there'd be some more backlash because people are starting to really fire up now. So, it's a shame, personally, speaking to Indigenous people, that this is not what it's about. It's not supposed to be welcoming everybody to a footy game. It'd be like holding a quick ceremony, a mass for where does it stop? We'll get the Christians to come in and do a service as well. We'll get the Muslims to come in and do a service. The Jews can come in and do a service. The Catholics can come and do a service. I don't know. We could probably add a few more religions in there. Maybe we can stop and meditate. We might actually get to play the actual sport game that everybody paid to come and see eventually. But seriously, there is a time and a place for these sorts of things. I've gone out on country and I've been welcomed, by the Indigenous, and I was happy to do that. I chose to do that. That was my desire to do that, But if you go into a footy game, that's not what you're going to pay to see, is it? If you want to go and partake in those things, by all means, go and do it. It's the same as putting fluoride in the water. You want fluoride in your water, you go and put fluoride in your water. You pay for it. Why should I have to go and pay to have it removed? It's simple common sense, simple stuff. But apparently, the only thing that's common about common sense is where it's jingling in your pocket, and that's become a rarity as well. Anyway, lovely play on words. Of course, the Courier Mail did have its own little how do you feel about welcome to country ceremonies? And clearly, from the people who have read that article, 108,000 votes. Let's refresh that actually to see where we're at. 109,000 votes, rapidly approaching 110,000 of people have put their thing in, and 68% say this shit needs to stop. 68% of the population. Now, do we live in a democracy or not? Simple, straightforward stuff here, ladies and gentlemen. Very easy. 11% of the population combined, which it's either the right amount or there should be more. Only 3% said more, mind you. There are very minor voices here, Of course, our weakest piss politicians are still trying to play how can we keep everybody happy game? It's not going to work. You've divided the people so far on these issues now. We're on the verge of a civil war, I think. I don't condone that. I don't think we should go into a state of shooting each other. I think it's really easy. We can all sit down and talk this out, so long as we're not dealing with, left-hearted socialists, because those people, they need help. They need therapy. But anyway, if you want to cast your vote and continue to watch that number rise, because that was actually at 65% yesterday when I found this. Here it is in the comments. Go in there. Put your 5 cents in there. Put your 10 cents in there. Throw your common sense in there. Go for your life. Anyway, another thing I found interesting, and I don't know how true this is, but this Jim Ferguson fella reckons that foreigners are 71% more likely to commit sex crimes in Britain. Something else we should think about while Albo's importing people left, right, centre. Hey, did anybody actually ask the Indigenous what they thought about importing, millions and millions of extra people from various other nations who are not really compatible with anyone in some cases? Did anybody ask them? Did all those left-hearted fuckwits who sit there and go, "Oh, welcome to country is a great thing," actually turn around to the Indigenous and go, "Hey, do you mind if we import more people in the like?" I think we could pretty safely say, and I'm not 100% correct. I know if I'm correct or not on this, but I have a feeling that Albo's imported more people than there are actually Indigenous in this country at this point in his term, which is pretty sad. I know they were. 4 to 5 years ago, they were in the 2 to 3% of the population, and Albo has brought in something 2 million people or some shit in his term, if not 1.5. It's an insane amount of people, Where is the percentage of the Indigenous population now? Are they down to 1% of the population now, thanks to Albo? Is that where we're at? Like, pretty scary stuff when you think about it. And particularly if you're an Indigenous person. I can imagine though that statistical number, it must be very, very shocking. But it's okay. They've got a welcome to country ceremony. That should sort all the problems out for these people, eh? Yeah. Oh, we can throw another bag of money at them. That'll be all right. Oh, sorry. That only goes to the funds. Anybody's actually gone out and seen the actual Indigenous people in the streets. They ain't getting none of that money. I'm sorry. Just a fact of the matter. But anyway, it's pretty disturbing stuff. And I'm sure, I don't know, ladies in the audience, how do you feel about this? The This is statistical number that is claimed allegedly here. 71% more likely to commit sex crimes in Britain, but from foreigners, Afghans in particular, and I've never even heard of that one. Eritrean nationals. I'm not sure where that is in the world. Sorry, I'll have to confess my ignorance on that one. But how do you feel about that? Because here they're saying British women were sacrificed on the altar of political correctness. Communities are shattered and no one was willing to speak up. This is diversity. It's a dereliction of duty. I know. How do you audience members feel about this? These are serious issues we've got to deal with, which leads me into how to vote. Because while we're dealing with this absolute mayhem, how we vote this time around, if you haven't already done, I've seen a few people already commenting that they've already gone down there and felt intimidated by the vile leftist people that they've seen. But it's pretty straightforward for the Senate, 1 to 6 in the top or 1 to 12 in the bottom. Personally, I'd be recommending this. It's seriously, it's an extra 6 numbers. And if you can count to 12, I think you are capable. Now, the reason for why I would do this, right, is pretty much available here. We're going to use Queensland as an example because that's where I'm at, Firstly, the Socialist Alliance, how the hell are they at the top of the bill? I think that is an insult to our Anzacs as well. The Socialist Alliance should not even be allowed. These two people, I think, are criminals, but that's just my particular opinion. But the reason I'm getting at is here we look at Senator Jared Rennick because he's got a party, and the Katters have also got a party, but they only have one representative each. Now, let's say I'm pretty supportive of Senator Jared Rennick. He's taken the time to talk to me, unlike a lot of others. The Katter Party, for instance, I reached out to several times during the state election. I will not waste my time with them any further. At the end of the day, if you can't talk to me, fuck off. That's my current opinion of the Katter Party. What they did to Clinton was pretty dodgy. They strung him along for years on end, and then right before the end gave him the flick. I think that was a bit dodgy. Look, I've got the time of day for sorry, man, I've gone blank on your name. Very, very rude and disrespectful of me. Sorry, dude. I can't believe I've gone blank. It's Ruben. Sorry. Very sorry, Ruben. Ruben, I've got time of day for Ruben. Even he was running for the Katter Party. I'll give him and only him the time of day as far as the Katter Party is concerned, because the rest of them have been disrespectful in my eyes. Senator Jared Rennick can come all the way from Brisbane and come and talk to me. You guys are right here in town and you wouldn't talk to me. So, no, fuck off. I'm not going to give them, the Katter Party, the time of day. So, for that reason, I don't want to vote above the line, because voting above the line for Senator Jared Rennick gives them a vote. That's the reason I'm going to go single. Below the line, I'll give Senator Rennick one of my numbers. That's for sure. William Bay, definitely. And again, okay, I probably will lend support to both the Heart Party and the Great Australian Party, but by voting above the line, I'm forced to go, well, let's assume I want to go Great Australia Party as my number one, because William Bay, come on, he's one of us. He's one of our cafe locked-out people. He's a great human being. We should definitely be putting him number one, shouldn't we? At least that's the narrative I'm going to go with for this time being. All right. But then I want to put Jared Rennick second. And I can't do that by voting above the line. So I have to go below the line. So that's my justification. Plus, I can count to 12. And if I have any trouble, it's Queensland. I'll be wearing thongs. She'll be right. But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm looking at this. Obviously, we want to keep Malcolm Roberts. He's done great work. Agina Court. Now, I believe she's actually had a run in Cairns, if memory serves me. I'm getting a chance to look all of them up. She's been pretty, yes, she has. So she's been pretty dedicated. She's running Cairns twice now. Now she's going for the Senate, which is, a good move. As I understand, she's a good candidate. I don't know her too well. but I think, she's worthy of a vote as well. One Nation certainly kicking some goals. And hey, One Nation candidate actually spoke to me today, which is more than I can say for some of the other parties at the moment. So where were we? We're here. We're going back to, no, we didn't want that bit. Let me self all lost. Where did that page go? Did I accidentally shut that page down that I had? I think I did. No, there it is. No, that's the other one. Oh, bloody well did too. Isn't that frustrating? Did I have it open somewhere else? Not too much. No, stop. Shh, quiet. That's too loud. Oh, sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Not having a good arvo. See, this is usually quiet time for me. Builder, which brings me to, I believe it was Ballot Builder is the website we want here. So we're going to chuck that there. So this is a great little website for if you're not 100% sure on what you're doing. Build your ballot. You can get started. Actually, I'm not going to use it that way. Ballot Builder. QLD Senate. So this just gets me past the bullshit. So I have to search the page and figure it out. There we go. That's what I wanted. Grab that one and put that there. So you can use the website in its intended thing. Actually, I haven't gone through it. We might give that a crack later. How did I end up doing it? Anyway, I'm not going to ask any further questions. I'm getting myself confused here. So these are obviously our options. Now, I did check out the Fusion. Bad. We'll start with some of the independents. So, because that's the order I've got this in. So, I checked out the independents. Obviously, Green's bad. I know a lot of people out there legalize cannabis. Yeah, man, that'd be great, dude. But the problem is those guys are generally associated with these kind of peoples. Because apparently going to be really, really wasted to want to vote Greens. Anyway, so I checked out all these candidates. I wasn't exactly impressed. We've got this guy here who at first I looked up Gilbert Holmes and I found that he's had a crack at mayor, and he's got this Confucio Multidorm Hyperfantastico. He wants religion and ethics and all this sort of stuff, but his politics are global society with world government. That worries me. Peaceful with the rule of law. Well, it's a wonderful idea, but it doesn't really work. Decentralized to the neighborhood scale, directly democratic institutions, tiered upwards. Like, these are wonderful values, but they're generally associated with socialism. So it's a wonderful idea, but yeah. He used exactly the same campaign. So this is him running for mayor in Brisbane, which I don't believe he was successful doing. What happened here? That's not where that was supposed to be. Anyway, let's get rid of that. So he's got The Gilbo Show. I did find him on Facebook. It was a lot of mucking around to try and find this guy, but I found him in the end. Another thing is, he's got this same narrative written out here. People on planet supporting locally, and certainly, like, it actually read a lot like the Georgia Guidestones. Really, it was a bit disturbing, and I click on this part and URL error. Interesting. Yeah, great eye. 666 equals 2/3 of a waveform. It's strange, interesting stuff. Like, I'm not sure, Jesus showed me what and all this. And one part I'm sitting here thinking, okay, cool. So he seems to have a religious thing. I haven't gone through it extensively. I don't know. Maybe there is something in this guy. Maybe there's not. He's got some interesting concepts that I've seen before in these mathematical patterns and stuff like that. Which I've always found interesting and fascinating. So that kind of resonates. But at the same time, some of the things, this statement here, I find concerning. So I don't know, a bit strange in my eyes. I don't know. I don't think I would give him a vote. Danny Donahue, this guy's pretty straightforward. He seems very focused on men's rights from everything that I can see pretty quickly. He does have a video here. He does say he has no criminal history, but he does also mention that there's, you know, I think it's here. He's concerned about kids committing suicide and, you know, obviously men's rights, which is pretty interesting. I think that's a very noble thing. I'd have to say that he's experienced some harsh shit, but he didn't really seem to get into it too much as well. There is a video I found of him on this Facebook page, and it goes for about 2.5 minutes, and he managed to achieve the here it is. In this 2.5 minutes, he fundamentally said nothing. So didn't really convince me, which is a bit sad, but I think his stance on men's rights believes he might be a good dude. This guy, Duke Wong, we've already got a Wong in Parliament, and not impressed. But let's not judge him on his name. You have a look at his webpage, and again, here's a guy who's got a very nice looking website. You know, tells me that he's born in Sydney. He studied pharmacology and physiology, you know, and then decided to pursue a career in IT. And I read that and I'm like, huh? What? I don't get it. Pharmacology and physiology. Now, I've not studied either of these things, but I'm pretty confident they don't lead to the IT industry. That one left me baffled, you know. He's gone and worked overseas, the UK's largest conveyancing firms, and eventually returned to Brisbane to start a family. You know, he's got a whole bunch of diverse experiences and multi-industries. Like, again, it's a whole bunch of words, but he says nothing. You know, he's been almost everywhere. He's telling you how in 4 months he hit the road, went and seen 36 towns. You know what? He doesn't say anything about it. It's interesting. Like, he hasn't come back. There's no definitive, I believe this or I believe that. You know, he considers himself the anti-politician. I'm not seeing anything. You know, let's flip the script. Let's break the mold. You know, he's got all the catchphrases, but what are you actually about, man? He hasn't said, hey, I believe in bodily autonomy. There's nothing mentioned there. In fact, none of these four independent candidates have said anything about keeping us safe from medical tyranny. None of those four candidates seem to really impress me very much at all. This guy really has a very well-made website that says nothing. So I guess that's what he really learned, you know, was how to say a lot by saying fuck all, gimme, gimme, gimme. That's my impression. You feel free to go and find your own. Jason Brown, well, this all fell apart pretty quickly. You know, all you have to do is scroll down to this part, and, you know, he's worried about climate change. This is what and so instantly, sorry, mate, you're gone. You know, here it is. Australian must proactively address the looming threats of climate change. This guy is clearly mentally ill and should not be voted for. So, yeah, that concludes our quick little stroll down independent lane. Sorry, the independents for the Senate have not won me over. You know, perhaps Danny Donahue, you know, but again, you look at it and, you know, he's got 59 likes and 131 followers. Openly admits he hasn't really tried to do much. He does give you his phone number, so feel free to jump on there and give him a call and maybe ask him. You know, if I had found that a bit earlier, I might have actually done that, but I haven't. You know, it's just the way things have turned out. Maybe I'll give him a call later. See if he wants to come onto a show or something, see if we can find out a little bit more about him. But yeah, as for Jason, you may be living in Proserpine, you know, sort of in the North Queensland area around Mackay and all that, mate. But how can you be a country boy and still think climate change? Retard. Sorry, mate. Not happening. You are gone. So anyway, that's my quick little brief look into that. We'll clear all this shit up and get a bit of space here. So back to where we should be putting our shit in the Senate for Queensland. Obviously, you know, Senator Rennick's done some great work. You know, we obviously want to support the Great Australia Party because, well, the Great Australia Party is a great party to start with. We know Rod Cullerton was offered a shit ton of money and turned it down, which is a amazing show of integrity there, because, you know, he could have taken Clive's money and gone, sweet, now let's spend up big. But, you know, You know, it's a bit of a toss-up. Do we support Great Australian Party and our fellow cafe locked out man William Bay, or do we support Jared Rennick for the amazing work he's done? That's a bit of a hard one. Maybe these are options 1 and 2. Obviously, Malcolm Roberts has been supportive of medical rights the whole way through. I think he's definitely, you know, in that upper echelon of the 1, 2, 3 categories. You know, Gina, well, I haven't seen any of her work, but she keeps getting in there year after year, putting her hand up to she's keen to get in there. So I think she is worth something. I did have a look at the Fusion Party at some point here. Where did that come up? That didn't come up. Must have clicked out of it and discussed. So we'll click the website. You know, it's got one of these new age friggin' looks about it. And the first thing you see is, what is this guy? Is it a guy? I'm not sure. I'm concerned. You know, we start to see rainbows. We start to see these extremely unrealistically overblown out photography shots. You know, just judging the book by its cover, this is looking a bit queer. And at the end of the day, it's more eco-friendly lunacy. You know, I did find exact words in there. Fusion is climate rescue accord, joint effort across multiple parties to reduce emissions to near zero. These people are fucking idiots. So I'll be staying well away from that. That's for sure. The Indigenous Party, I did have a look. Wayne Koku, I've actually spoken to him once before. He's probably a little bit more on the extremist side of the Indigenous affairs for my personal liking. I do have a quote from him here. I should have brought it forth, but I didn't get time, where he fundamentally, and I'm paraphrasing, said that we can't expect 25 million people to pack up and go home, but we can expect to be paid a shitload of money in reparations fundamentally. You know, he had some pretty out there ideas, you know, which to me I felt were counterproductive to us all getting along. So I'm not 100% convinced on him. I don't know this lady, not part of the Indigenous crew that I've spoken to, and most of the Indigenous crew I speak to wouldn't want to put their hands up for this sort of shit anyway. They don't believe the system works, but that's a different thing. You know, obviously our trumpets are the patriots, you know, definitely deserve a look in. You know, we've seen what's come of Clive's previous endeavor. He managed to get at least one candidate into the Senate via Victoria, and old mate's doing a bang up job. So I think he's definitely worth a look in there. Australia's Voice, I didn't get a chance to look at that, so we'll just keep going through and have a look for ourselves, shall we? All right, so Australian housing market has become more about profit than people. That's true. Banking reform, the 4 big banks have been gouging customers. True. Supermarket divestiture. We will introduce tough new divestiture laws to break up the Coles and Woolworths duopoly if they exploit customers, drive up prices. Well, they already are. Just do it. And political perks. Politicians' pay has gone up over 16,000 in the last 2 years, plus the 6-figure payout. Yep, there's a problem. Republic. It's time for Australia to take control of its future and stand as a republic. Okay, so now we're starting to get worried. And the genocide. All right, cool. Palestinians. No, I'm here for Australia, not Palestine. You guys have just lost me. Our resources should benefit Australia first. Yep, I agree with that. Domestic violence survivors face often financial insecurity will fight the automatic split, the abuser superannuation. Hang on, I think we need to fix the domestic violence issue to cater for men as well as women. That's a big problem, big no-no. Parliament vote on war. The decision to go to war should be one made by the Parliament, not the Prime Minister of the day. We'll fight to ensure that the war decisions are made by our elected representatives, not a single politician. How about a referendum for war, because it all affects everybody? Personally, I think no war we shouldn't, especially going to war with another country that has nothing to do with us, like Ukraine and Palestine, those two, for instance, you know, which again, you know, it's a bit of a contradiction here. They clearly want to start a war, but then talk about we should be the ones to vote for it. Disturbing stuff. Personally, I think the entire population should get a chance to vote on these things. And I think you'll find a hell of a lot of war will not be getting done because let's face it, the majority of us just want to live in peace and not blow the shit out of us. It's the Australian Defence Force, not the Australian War Force. So yeah, not happy with this Australia's voice, people, because, well, I guess straight away, we're not talking about the standard Aussie here, as far as I'm concerned. So we've got a lot of dodgy stuff here. Wow, Lambie. Do I need to say any more? The Australian Democrats. Let's get entertained. All right, what are you about? All right. Securing a nation, Australia's defence strategy should be coherent and have our national interests at its core. We should not squander billions of dollars on doubtful, long-range, long-led time warfighting equipment that offers Australia little protection. The US is a friend and ally, but has drawn us into too many far-flung and yep, cool. Down with that. That looks good. Good health, despite Australia's semi-universal public health care system funded through Medicare, the pharmaceutical benefit scheme. Our plan, prepare for now inevitable health consequence of global warming. Yep, right. Health consequences of global warming. Right, lost, gone, bye, done. That was quick. Yeah, we're running low on options. We don't want to look at these parties, do we? Truth, can I even come up with 12? The Citizens Party. I think there's, yeah, I remember this now. So this is something that we can have a bit of faith in. I'm pretty confident here. Policies. Return the government to the people. There's a good idea. Government for the people. National sovereignty. Return to independent foreign policy. No AUKUS war reform. War powers reform. Economic sovereignty. Return Australia's banking services to the people. Return integrity to public governance. Return to affordable housing. Revitalize our healthcare system. Return to energy security. Invest in national food security and fuel security. Yep, I think these guys have got a pretty good idea here. Take back economic and national sovereignty. Australia has a crisis of governance. Yep, the legacy of successive governments serving corporate interests and foreign powers ahead of Australians. Both major parties have pursued policies concentrating economic and political power in a handful of big banks, retailers, resource giants. Yep, look, I think these guys are definitely worth looking, and I haven't seen them say anything about fucking supporting climate change. They're in. I have followed a bit of their work in the past. They're not 100%, but no one is. Nothing's going to be my ideal perfect person. That's me. I'm going to be the only person that can be running this country in my mind that'll do it right. And sorry, I just don't have the money and the time right now to do that for you. As much as some people may like to see that happen, it's not going to happen right now. Family first. Look, at the end of the day, not 100, people should have bodily autonomy. That includes the abortion issue, the family first being very Christian, not 100% on that. But, as I was saying to another friend of mine, look, which would you rather have? Christian values, which may be a little bit, too restrictive for those of us who believe in freedom, or do you want the Muslim values, which have absolutely 100% restriction? Think about it. Where do you want to justify this one? So family first could be a bit of a look in as well. We can investigate the legalized cannabis. Why not? It's always a bit of entertainment. Adults should be able to grow a few plants and be able to buy cannabis at a retail shop. Look, let's solve the whole drug problem and just allow the people to have them. Although that said, I do know some people who probably should stop smoking because all they've done is smoke, and not achieved a great deal in their life. But some people remarkably can function on it. It should be a personal choice. You should be able to figure out your own world in your own way. It has wonderful medicinal purposes. Not to mention, it's really good for making clothes, ropes, and various other products. So we should be utilizing this plant. It grows fast. It's very helpful, very useful, and it's a wonderful crop turner. So you can, keep those crop cycles and diversities going. Wonderful opportunity there, I think. Party policy. Let's see, civil liberties, privacy, human rights, personal freedoms, anti-discrimination, tolerance. See, this is where we're going to have a problem here, I think. Okay, so obviously legalized cannabis, human rights, just legalizing cannabis would remove it from the criminal justice industry, and cannabis as a crime. Sorry, are we just going to focus? Yep, cool. So their human rights issues are focused solely on cannabis at the moment. This looks good. Hemp, just like I said, they're a wonderful way to sort out a lot of problems with the environment. And we should definitely, hemp is increasingly being recognized as having tremendous potential in our natural toolbox for promising crops and bioplastics. So yeah, look, they're sticking to their guns and keeping it around. We love weed. Encouragement farmers to cultivate hemp. Cool, personal use. And grandma look happy. Tree for personal use. How to grow. Generated. Yep, it all looks pretty good. I'm not hearing anything ridiculously stupid. They are focusing solely on weed. Now, unfortunately, the side effect to these things is they do tend to be pretty associates with Labours and Greens is what I tend to find. But they're not saying anything here about that. It could be very cunning, clever move. I'm guessing we could probably learn more about from the how to vote cards. So let's have a look what they're saying here in Queensland. If we go how to vote, there's no one actually around in my area. So let's have a look at the Senate to keep it broad. So again, they're going for the Animal Justice Party as their second, then Fusion's their third. See, this is where you start to see all the parties they're choosing and everything they side with is generally very leftist. And that's the problem with the Cannabis Party. Everything that they themselves have put up, I don't disagree with. That's fine. But you see who they're hanging out with. Bad company, ladies and gentlemen. Bad company from the Legalized Cannabis Party. And you can see how quickly we can sift through these things and figure out, do we like them? Do we not? So we know the One Nation. Sustainable Australia. We got to have a laugh, eh? We got to have a laugh. We know where this is going. It's in the title. It's in the title. Policy, Sustainable Australia Party. Sustainable Australia is an independent community movement with science and evidence-based policies, not left-wing or right-wing ideology. Now, that is an interesting. I didn't see that coming. All right. Let's continue further then. You've gained, a few more moments of my attention. SAP's mission is to decorrupt politics for a fair and sustainable Australia. Okay. You think removing corruption will solve this? I think you're going to be very disappointed in the results. But anyway, we are often asked what the difference is between SAP and other political parties and candidates, including the Greens. Of course, now they've compared themselves straight away with the Greens. So are they differentiating too much? They put them sixth on the ballot. So they've given them a mention rather than, putting forth freedom. So I'm a bit disturbed by that. The housing crisis. Yep. So this is, again, one of the Greens' main avenues, getting that young vote in is that, we'll get you a house, we'll freeze your rent and all that sort of stuff with unsustainable ideas. How? We address all the major demand side root causes for housing crisis. What? As in tax concession, ending foreign ownership. That's good. That's good to hear they say that. Slowing population growth. Well, good. Via lower immigration. That's good. Okay. It's a pro-immigration party, but they want to lower immigration. Interesting. As part of our plan, we simply support returning Australia's annual permanent immigration program from around 200 PA to a normal 20th century average of 70,000. This would be non-discriminatory and have no impact on our humanitarian refugee intake. Personally, I think we need to really look at the refugee situation completely, because just because they're a refugee doesn't make them a wonderful choice for our country. I don't see a lot of sustainable ideas coming out of, such economic burdens when we are economically burdened ourselves. We've got to look after ourselves first. I'm sorry. We're not going to go clean up someone else's yard while my yard looks like shit. All right. Key policy methods. Very funny. Well, they talk a lot of good stuff, but again, I'm going to go guilt by association here. I don't like who they're friends with. So I think I'll give it a flick. It's not looking too good. Now, Libertarian Mob. Now, I'm pretty sure we're going to find some favor here. You don't have to spend a great deal of time doing this stuff, Just how long's this podcast gone for an hour, and we even talked about the US. So, it doesn't take that long to go through it. And look, I've done half the legwork for you already. It's pretty straightforward. I want the freedom to choose my own path. Holy shit. Welcome to the website of the Libertarian Party, formerly known as the Liberal Democrats. The Libertarian Party is fundamentally different to other parties in Australia. They all say that. Unlike the others, we believe you are the best person to make decisions for your own life. Fancy that. Not politicians or public servants. As long as you aren't bringing harm to anyone else, you should be free to live your life your way. Holy shit. What a wonderful idea. I'm down. And to accept responsibility for the outcomes of your own choices, both good and bad. For over 20 years, we've been fighting to keep the government out of your pockets, out of your families, and out of your lives. Government is not your parent. You know what? Personally, I'm happy to have my parents in my life, but I'm kind of happy. I don't really want them in my pockets. They are family, so they're part of our families. But even then, come on, bit of distance. We moved all the way to Queensland. We can have a yarn once in a while. That's enough. Unless you jump on board to save the world right now, I haven't got much time for people. I'm sorry. Not that I hate my family or anything. But, I love my kids. That's a whole different story. But, anyway, about our policies. Let's get to the brass tacks, shall we? What? That was pretty short. One of the people, our policies. By suggesting forward-thinking, ambitious policies that prioritize prosperity, families, but what are they? How many times do you want me to click to get the fucking answer? This shit pisses me off. Like you told me, like here it is, our policies. Bang! I should click on that, and that should be the end of it. 2025 federal election. Okay, we'll get in the speech. I don't need the monologuing. Now we've got to click again. So prosperity, family, and freedom seems to be what they're mostly talking about. So free speech, privacy, and foreign affairs. Let's see how we get into foreign affairs. So they want to preserve the ability to use cash, deregulate technologies like Bitcoin to protect financial privacy. Yeah, cool. Deregulation is always good. Not interfere with the individual's ability to use social media or require social media companies to verify users. Cool. And mass surveillance laws. Treat citizens like suspects. Oppose mandatory digital ID. Abolish the office of the e-safety commissioner. That's looking pretty good. Maintain a strong military and national defense. Avoid military deployment for conflicts unrelated to Australia's direct security. Beautiful. Love it. Pursue the independent foreign policy free from the influence or demands of other states or international organizations. Withdraw from the international organizations that compromise Australia's sovereignty, such as United Nations, High Commissioner for Refugees, and World Health Organization. Beautiful. Prioritize beneficial trade agreements and peaceful coexistence while rejecting violence and coercion. Seems pretty good. Pretty happy with that so far. I think libertarians have got some good values. What do you reckon, ladies and gentlemen? Our family, strong families, get past the monologuing. Abolish Federal Department of Education, empower families to choose their children's education. Very good. With a school voucher system that allows funding to follow the child. Oh, beautiful idea. Reduce red tape association with establishing childcare, schools, and universities to allow innovation and creativity in the market. Allow parents and communities to form home education co-ops and micro schools to cater for their children's needs and strengths. Love it. I'd love to be a part of something, education co-ops and micro schools. I really don't want my two younger ones to go anywhere near the socialist indoctrination centers because they are just horrific. Restore the legal definition of a woman. Wow. I think we're all pretty happy with what happened in the UK, and as we are part of the United Kingdom, British Empire, whatever you want to call it, that decision should pretty much roll down well from us. It's good to see we've got people supporting it, though. Sure that women's only spaces are protected in public. I'm sure the ladies would agree that's a good idea. Ladies, let me know. Repeal legislation that forces women to accept biological men in bathrooms, change rooms, or clubs. Ladies, again, I'm pretty sure you'd be happy with that. Allow sporting bodies to establish female-only categories and exclude biological men from women's sports. Looks good. Restrict gender transition surgery and hormone treatment to adults. Sure, I can't believe that's even has to be mentioned. It's absolutely mind-boggling. Ensure that parents, psychologists, chaplains, and health practitioners can affirm an individual's inherent worth or encourage acceptance to their biological bodies. Yes, we should be allowed to say, actually, you know what, you were born a boy. Why can't you? Isn't that what you are? How is this even a thing? Like, does my head in. Australia's a land of opportunity, but immigration policies must ensure fairness and respect for the taxpayers. The Libertarian Party supports a system that prioritizes skilled workers, ensures public services remain accessible, and gives citizens a fair go. Introducing immigration fee system to ensure new arrivals contribute fairly to public services and infrastructure. Yeah, that's it. Buy your way in. You haven't got a couple of bucks to contribute straight up. Limit short-term visas to a maximum of 5 years. 5 years doesn't seem like a short-term visa to me. I don't know. I thought short-term visa was something like 6 months. I don't know. Restrict access to citizenship to individuals who have lived in Australia for 10 years. I reckon, yeah, you should have to live here for 10 years. I'm still a big fan of the fact if you're not born here, you shouldn't be allowed to vote. That would sort the Labor and the Greens parties out pretty quickly. Restrict welfare to citizens, including unemployment, social housing, and pensions. Fucking oath. Why should we be paying for anybody that's not our citizens? I can't believe, again, why does that even need to be said? Refrain from entering into agreements or treaties with global organizations. Yep, definitely. Yeah, the more I look, I like libertarians. I think they're definitely up there. What do you reckon, ladies and gentlemen? I think we've got some good one. Got a good one here. I want to hit that one. I think we've covered the general gist of it. I think we're a winner with the libertarians. So I think there we have it. Libertarians, one nation, family first, probably down at the bottom end if you can't fill in the gaps. Great Australia Party, the Citizens Party, Jared, people first, and the Trumpets, I think, is the way to go. It seems. I think that should fill a ballot. Pretty close to anyway. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. I've solved all your problems. Thank you for coming. It's pretty straightforward. You follow those same kind of principles in there. The Heart Party is obviously, a good one. I quite enjoyed what they had to say looking at their website. Again, just go and have a look at the websites if you want to ask any more questions. Get yourself informed. As you see, we've spent about an hour so far just going through the Senate, having a quick look at websites, quick read, skimming through. Don't listen to the monologuing crap. Get to the points. Get to the crux of the matter. You can just skim and sift and see what's going on here. Obviously here in Queensland, North Queensland, we've got Felicity, who lovely lady gave us the time of day. So, I'm not in Herbert, so that's not helping me. I've had a bit of a yarn to Alexander. Unfortunately, we haven't sorted something out yet for Dawson, but from what I understand, he seems like a pretty good dude. So he'll definitely be on my ballot. But, one nation bloke, he talked to me, Alexander. Yeah. So you got my phone number, dude. Give me a call. Anyway, I think that kind of sums it all up. Obviously, we've got 6 teals. This is across Australia that, ABC recommends them. Do you need any further reason to make sure you don't vote for these people? So these teals, again, 6 community independents or teals, are running for long-term LNP held seats in Queensland. So Queensland, seriously, stay away from these ones. We do not want these ones. It looks like we're focusing mostly around the Brisbane area. We've got the Gold Coast. We've got Toowoomba, North Brisbane, Cedar Dixon. So yeah, we're focusing on those inner city areas. I don't know. I left the cities because they've become such disgusting places to be. I actually enjoy nature, so I wanted to live in it. But strangely enough, all those apparently who love nature want to live in the most heavily condensed, nature-less places. Then it does my head in. Again, I think Brisbane is currently a fucking green seat and shit like that. Same as Melbourne and Sydney. And like, what the fuck? You guys are living in a pollution nightmare. Any wonder you're sitting here thinking, you know what you should do? in the bush and get some fucking perspective. Fuck me. You living in this shit, that's half your problem. You know, well, that's my opinion anyway. So I just want to point out that there are 6 fighting against history safe seats to change Queensland politics. We want to change it for a good reason, and I don't think this is it. This looks like virtue signaling ABC shit. But what I wanted to bring us to end here is a controversial issue, something that me and a friend of mine got ourselves into a lot of trouble for talking about, and we had to remove our podcast. But amazingly, not long after we talk about it, it comes public stuff. CIA found the Ark of the Covenant by using psychics' declassified files claim. So by using remote viewing. Can we actually get that video? Let me know if this works, ladies and gentlemen. I want to see if we can actually just play it from here, because I don't know if I can get this off.
Additionally, the main person who was involved in this thread that a lot of people want to talk to is Secretary of Defense Hegseth. And a lot of questions were brought up regarding his drinking habits in his confirmation hearing. To your knowledge, do you know whether Pete Hegseth had been drinking before he leaked classified information?
I don't have any knowledge of Secretary Hegseth's personal habits.
Director Radcliffe, same question. Yes or no?
No, I'm going to answer that. I think that's an offensive line of questioning. The answer is no. I find it interesting that you
Hey,
want to.
I'm
going to answer.
time.
You asked me a
Director,
question. You want an answer?
No, listen.
You
it's
don't
a
want
yes
to
or no.
focus on the good work that the CIA is doing, that
No.
the intelligence community.
Director,
You
I
wanna talk
reclaim my
about-
time. Director, I reclaim my time. Here, I have huge respect for the CIA, huge respect for our men and women in uniform. But this was a question that's on the top of minds of.
Yeah. Declassified CIA documents claim the mystical Ark of the Covenant was get rid of the fucking bloody pop-ups. Was located by a psychic decades ago in the Middle East as part of one of intelligence agencies' experimental secret projects in the 1980s. The Ark of the Covenant was thrust back into the spotlight as globe-trotting archaeologist Indiana Jones attempted to uncover the artifact in Steven Spielberg's 1981 Oscar-winning Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now, isn't that interesting that they made a movie about it at the same time that they were actually looking for it? Coincidence? Right. Do you believe in coincidences? According to Jewish and Christian tradition, the gold-plated wooden chest housed the 2 tablets bearing the 10 commandments which God in theology gave to Moses. We know this. The CIA conducted experiments as part of the secret project Sunstreak with individuals known as remote viewers. There you go. So the CIA believes in remote viewing to the extent that they actually implemented it to try and find the Ark of the Covenant 45 years ago. Perhaps these things are not that crazy. Isn't that interesting? This is not me saying this. CIA's doing this shit. A type of clairvoyant who claimed they could project their consciousness to receive information about faraway objects. There is no credible scientific evidence that remote viewing exists. Let's go back. The CIA conducted experiments as a part of the project with individuals known as remote viewers, a type of clairvoyant, but there's no credible scientific evidence. Really? Come on. This would seem to be some kind of credible evidence, wouldn't you think? Here's a CIA document. I don't know. Maybe because it wasn't written by a doctor, is that why it's not considered science? I don't understand this. To me, this seems to be something of a credible nature, perhaps. Very interesting stuff, when you think. there's some definite questions that need to be answering here, and especially for those of us who have looked into the all amazing question I asked myself a long time ago: what did the Nazis actually find? And there's books written about these things. I didn't write them. I just read them. And again, they seem to believe in remote viewing and these kind of concepts as well. Fascinating stuff. What is the human race really capable of? Questions. You want a shard? Here. Visuals of surrounding buildings. So this, you guys can read the fuck out of this if you like. I'm kind of coming to a close for the evening because, like I said, it's a school night. So I'll punch that in there. Where I heard about this, redacted. I actually tune into this one nearly every day. I quite enjoy the way they do things. They do a bloody good job. And here's the redacted one as well. These things will also be available on Telegram for those of you who, say like Twitter, where you might not get the comments and things like that. And maybe BitChute probably aren't getting the comments. So all you guys out there, you can come over to the Telegram page, make sure you subscribe. And again, if you watch these things and you find it hard to find the links, so I've come across a lot of people for some reason who actually struggle to find the show for whatever reason. I actually have a couple of people who personally requested that I send them the links every week via this page. So it's one of the reasons I do it is, I drop the links available on any platform here on Telegram so people can just click and go straight to the show. All the thumbnails, as you probably noticed, have the time right there that it's in Queensland time. I tell you when I'm going live. I always drop it in that day. It'll say 7 p.m. That's when I'm going. If you live in some other time zone, you figure that out for yourself. Sorry, I can't do it for everyone. Otherwise, I have no space for the pictures, and pictures are worth 1,000 words. So anyway, I think that pretty much gets us to the point today. So if you want to contact me for any reason, you can't find the Telegram page, you can't find this, you can't find that, NQ Freedom Network at protonmail.com. Perhaps you want one of these links, for instance, the free 7-day trial of the Gaia Network. And if you sign up, hey, there's something that comes for me. I have signed up to this myself. I enjoy it. It's got all the cool shit in there, meditation, remote viewing sort of stuff, all the crazy shit that you're not supposed to think about. I seem to find there on Gaia Network. Do I agree with all of the stuff that's there? No, not necessarily, but there's some good gems in there. I am encouraging it because I enjoy it. So, if you get some enjoyment out of it, hey, sign up with that link and give me a kickback. It'd be great. Speaking of kickbacks, if you make a deposit with using this link, you get $10 free. I get $10 free. You're helping me help yourself. Fuck, it's a win-win situation. So give that a crack. The links are in the description. If you can't access that for whatever reason, do email me. I'm more than happy to help you out. Also, do consider becoming a Patreon. The wonderful Patreons, chip in $10 every week and every month, and help us out. Just that little bit. There is some bonus content there for you if you do decide to sign up. It's only available on Patreon, so you get a little bit of extra bonus content. I should do more. I know it's a bit hard. I'm just struggling for time at the moment. So yeah. There we are. Do we have anything starred? Can you rustle up some interviews with some of these people in the next week? I've tried. I've reached out to a lot of people, and not everyone's gotten back to me. This is one of the problems I found with Australian politics. Is I've attempted to get in and help for several years now, whether it's with my production company doing cartoons and designs and things like that, or whether it's just trying to get an interview on a podcast. You only do like 2 shows a week usually, and so people have got to slot into those kind of time frames. We leave this shit too late. It's like everybody in Australian politics is the guy who did his homework the night before or something. We need to be getting a little bit more organized. So in the case of the fellow for Dawson we had this morning, he decided to become the One Nation candidate because nobody else put their fucking hand up. You know, if you're considering doing these things and you want to run in an election because you're a great person and you want to help the humanity and whatever, you know, and you think you can do it, then need to start thinking about these things earlier. You know, I mean, in my mind, I'm already thinking about the next state election. I'm already thinking about the next council election. I'm already thinking, you know, a few years ahead. We need to start thinking like that. You know, have a look at what Trump did. As soon as he lost last time around, bang, went straight back onto the campaign trail and campaigned for 4 years. That's dedication. We in Australia should probably, maybe, you know, 4 years of campaigning is a bit much. It's probably a bit over the top, you know, but seriously, 1 month, that's all we're doing. You know, we're not pushing this hard enough. We're not reaching the people. I get it. I can't help but say we are a pretty friggin' lazy country, you know, when it comes to looking out for ourselves and looking, and any wonder we've become economic slaves to the banks. Any wonder our politicians treat us like fucking, you know, doormats, you know. Half the time I feel more like a used condom, you know, thrown out the window on a truck stop or something. But, you know, at the end of the day, we keep letting this shit happen because we're not getting into this enough. We're not dedicated enough. You know, Senator Rennick's been traveling up and down the coast for a while now. You know, do you have to pay for the Gaia network? Yeah, there's a free trial there. You can follow that. So you can go and have a look at it for 7 days following that link. And that you can decide whether you like it or not. You know, if there's heaps of different things, like what are you entering into, you know, the ancient history stuff. There's talk about things like the Ark of the Covenant and things like that. There's alien stuff in there. There's meditation stuff, self-help things, health elements as well. You know, it's kind of like signing up to Netflix, except it's a lot more informative, so to speak. So yeah, you do have to pay for it. I think a yearly subscription was about $130 or something, which is not that much, you know, especially if you're watching it every day. If you got time to watch, you know, a podcast or once a week, I think you definitely get your value out of it. Sometimes I sit down and binge watch a few things in a row, you know, if you've got the time. And, you know, being somebody who's on the road a bit, you can always just chuck a podcast on in the background and have a listen, you know. So yeah, you do have to pay for it, but you can try it for free, and that's the whole thing. It is a free trial, you know. So click that link, get your free trial. If you like it, sign up using that link. You help me, and if you enjoy it, awesome. Like I said, I'm promoting the product because I use it myself. So you know, at the end of the day, I don't know if you're the kind of person to sign up for a Netflix or anything like that. I personally won't sign up for that kind of shit because I don't need distractions. I need input, Stephanie, input. So I think that pretty much does us for the day. We haven't got any other comments or questions I need to deal with, do we? Wonderful family in the background there sorting shit out. Sips for sticking around. Big shout out and lots of love towards Michael. Hope he recovers nicely. You know, I've heard we've got an infection. I'm not sure on the exact details, so I'm hesitant to want to say much about it. But just want to send brother the love and energy he needs to get better. Hopefully, he comes good real soon. You know, but first and foremost, want him to really focus in on getting better and healing himself. You know, like, and that's the thing. You know, something we should all consider, you know, as what Michael has built here is really good in the sense that, you know, if one man should fall, there's plenty more of us to pick up the battle and keep fighting forward, you know. And that includes you guys out there too, you know. All hands on deck, man. All hands on deck. We are on a ship. It is sinking. We need all hands on deck to keep this freight train moving, this boat, whatever. Imagine whatever vehicle you want. Personally, I'm going for a spaceship. I want a spaceship, you know. I didn't get my hoverboard. I didn't get my flying DeLorean, so I'm going for a spaceship, you know. It's a hell of a time to be alive. Let's get out there and do some good work. Consider helping some of those parties, you know, just go down there and hand out some flyers, you know. If you are thinking, shit, I would like to run one day, getting in and getting around the politics, you know, and helping out is a great way to start to see what you're getting in for, you know. It's like a try before you buy sort of a scenario, you know. Getting in and helping you know, the political parties that you care about, you know, is a big one. You know, it takes a little bit more than just putting, you know, a Facebook post up here and there. You got to get out there, and because not everybody's using Facebook, not everybody's on social media, particularly in our rural regions. A lot of people are a lot more old school, so you got to get out there and actually talk to people, you know, and get a feel for it. You know, you get a feel for what the people are actually feeling and what they're about too. So, yeah. I highly recommend getting in there and giving it a go. You never know. You might come up with the next political strategy like I did, which was the Pauline Hanson cartoons. You know, one conversation, one with a little bit of my skills and ability, and look what I managed to do for One Nation with just a conversation with Pauline Hanson. It changed the shape of the political realm just by being there. You know, I haven't actually signed up to go in and do it myself, but I helped out. And I created a wonderful fucking idea that I will continuously remind everybody that it was my idea. I did that. You know, that's yeah. I feel a great sense of achievement. I feel a little bit more if my pockets were lined, but that'd be wonderful. You know, even a little bit more acknowledgement from One Nation would be beautiful on that. So yeah, don't forget to take your black pen if you haven't voted already. And best of luck to everybody out there. I think we're going to call it right here, right now. One final sips. Thanks for all for coming.